Well, she hasn't seen much action over the past year. There's our barn cat. She really hasn't. This car has been pretty much sitting for about the past year. I've moved it around the yard a little bit here and there, but unfortunately there are problems with it to the point where likely I'm going to have to take a lot of it apart, and it's very disappointing. It's very frustrating. So there's a couple of reasons why I'm not driving it right now. Least of all, the problems that I will list in the video. First of all, I'll never get rid of it. So it's one of those cars that I'll just never get rid of. I like this car. I enjoy driving it. I like the way it looks. I've said this on several occasions. I really do thoroughly enjoy this car. It is not the fastest car on the road by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't at the time that it was released. There's something about the way that it sounds, the way that it looks, the way that it drives. And I don't know, maybe it's like one of your own kids where you just love them to death despite all their flaws. This is one of those things. And so I won't get rid of it. In fact, maybe someday, if I can afford it, I'll do a frame-off restoration on this. I will literally take every nut and bolt off of this car, completely restore it, and get it back to factory new and better. But she's upset because she wants inside, and I'm out here talking and not letting her inside. But anyway, she's a really good barn cat. She's an indoor-outdoor cat. But at any rate, so this is one of those cars that I will never get rid of, but it needs work. So yeah, let's go into the real basics. So I got this off the road October, actually it was September. It was late September 2021. And the reason that I got it off the road was because the front shocks, or struts, however you want to call it, they are very wore out and very bad, and they rotate quite a bit. If you have the hood open and you're looking at it, they just move all over the place. You can see the tops of the struts, they move all over the place. The bushings are gone. It's just a wreck. So driving down the road, you feel a kind of a vibration from the front. When you turn, you can really feel it. It's just, it just needs a new suspension all around. I posted a couple posts on Facebook last year looking at some ZZP suspension, adjustable suspension, or something else like that. Got some comments back, which is nice. And so I do have my eyes on a new suspension set. And the really nice garage auto mechanic that's in town, really young guy, he's like in his early 20s, and he owns this place. He was gonna install this stuff for me so that I could get back to roadworthy. So had all these great plans. Got new injectors for it so I could get E85. Got a new intake for it. That's still in the trunk. And I was basically going to add the E85. James Brewer was going to tune it for me. He already did the tune on this because it's cammed already. And it was going to be, back in the road, little extra pep in the step, and then I was going to be done and satisfied with it. I wasn't chasing those dreams of having a 10-second car or anything else like that. I just wanted to have something that was a little fun to drive, unique, and it's definitely a head turner now. You don't see too many of these on the road, and so it definitely sparks up a conversation. I can't tell you how many times I would be at the gas station in town rolling with this thing, and there would be somebody who would come over and say, what is underneath that hood? Because you just don't hear a sedan like this sound this good. This is not a Impala from the mid 90s with LT1. This is very unique because it's a front wheel drive platform, and most people associate that with the 3800 V6, the L32, or the naturally aspirated 3800. But anyway, so having this thing roll up, I had people ask me how much it cost me to convert this to a V8. It's like, no, it came this way. It just wasn't well known that they came with a V8. So it's a real head turner, and it's one of those things that I'm never going to get rid of. I enjoy it, not just because people notice it, but I enjoy driving it myself. The sound, the feel, whatever. At any rate, so I was planning on driving it. I was planning on getting the suspension fixed this past spring, and I was going to get it back on the road. Well, then gas prices. So gas prices shot up through the roof, and we end up having to change course because this thing requires 93 octane in order to run. It's tuned that way. It's cammed, and it's tuned for 93. And if I would have went E85, that's fine, but your fuel economy goes way down to the floor, so I would be dumping more gas into it. Plus, my lead foot, or my heavy foot that is, would not allow for the best optimal gas mileage. I didn't get this so that I could just pussyfoot all over the place. I got it because I like to get into it, not floor it. I'm not 20 years old anymore where everywhere I go I have to have it to the floor. But it's got acceleration, and I enjoy acceleration still. I still enjoy that. And so my foot is usually rather heavy into it. Not too bad, but that's just what you do. So when gas prices really started to take the climb in the wintertime, we had to make a decision, because even driving this on the road the way that it was, because I was driving a Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 5.7, which was terrible on gas. I got maybe 12 miles to the gallon with it. With all the work that I would have to put into this to get it back on the road, plus the E85 tune and so on, I would probably be lucky to get 18 to 20 miles per gallon in this, so it would not have been much of an improvement. And when gas approaches $5 a gallon, 18 to 20 does not sound all that appealing. So we ended up getting a Chevy Volt, which was a huge savings for us. The fact that we can charge it on solar during the daytime and then run about 40 miles on battery was absolutely incredible for us. We've saved so much money in gas. And I did not want to insure that is full coverage, because this car, I always have full coverage on it. I didn't want to pay $250 a month to drive it and the Volt and the truck all at the same time. So we decided that, it's going to cost too much money to drive this. We're just going to go ahead and we're just going to let it park. It's got too much wrong with it. It's not roadworthy anymore. It needs work before it can go on the road. So we decided just to keep it parked. And it's sad. I've been going through this entire summer without having a fun car to drive. I don't like it, but money, that's just what you got to deal with. So at any rate, it's been parked. Now there's another problem that I have besides the suspension. I do have an oil leak, and it looks like it's coming down the back of the motor, which isn't good. And now I did have the heads off. It has new head gaskets. And the oil pan is new with a new oil pan gasket. I don't think it's leaking from the oil pan. I think it might be a rear main seal that's leaking. And it's a slow leak, very slow. Nothing that, bleeds down the road or anything, but it's a slow leak. And that's something that might actually warrant me pulling the motor out again. It takes me 4 or 5 hours to pull the motor out in this thing. I might have to pull it out, put it on engine stand, and then do some more work to it. Ideally, I'd like to have it, a complete tear down and rebuild. Ideally, but money. That's money and time. That's the two big things that right now I just don't have. So, do I just deal with the oil leak and drive it a year or two until I have to take it all apart? Or do I get it all fixed now, and while I have it out, maybe I can throw in a little bit more of an aggressive cam? Right now it's got a 212, 218 cam in it, and I could probably put something a little bit more aggressive into it since I've already got the motor apart anyways. I put a mild cam in here because I wasn't interested in going after this ultra power, but it wouldn't hurt to maybe step it up a notch or two, since I'm already going to have the motor apart anyways, and it's already got the upper end support for it, and we're near the bottom end limitation, so that's always a possibility. But again, this is all dream, this is all talk. Basically, this is a low priority on our list right now. I hate it that I can't drive it, but it's a low priority right now. It needs work. It really does need work. And, you know, eventually I can get to the point where I can get it back on the road. But it's definitely not happening this year. I can tell you that without a doubt. It's not happening this year. Hopefully next year, if gas prices come down, then that's fine. You know, I can look at putting some money into this. But if I'm going to be pulling the motor on this thing, I am not going to leave the stock exhaust on it. I'm definitely getting some OBX or Doug Thorley headers. I mean, they're right there. It's way easier to get to them when the motor's out, so I might as well replace those. I already have a ZZP downpipe, but I would definitely go with a full 3-inch exhaust all the way back. That would be my preference. But again, this is all talk and dream because I don't right now have the money or the time to deal with it. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way that it is. But this is one of those cars that I'll never get rid of, for sure. I'll never get rid of it. And, you know, I'm just going to basically look at it. And that's about it. It also needs new wheels and tires, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Michigan wasn't kind to this. The first 2 years that I drove it was in the wintertime as well. So Michigan wasn't kind to it. There's other things that it needs, but like, for example, the AC is not running anymore. I did check the sensor, and the ECU is calling for AC, but the compressor isn't coming on, and the fans are not coming on. In fact, the cooling fans are not coming on at all, and that's a concern for me. I did check the relays, and they're okay, so that is a concern for me. And this was at the very tail end of when I was driving it, so I haven't dove into it to see what the problem was. But normally when the AC is on, the cooling fan will automatically come on, obviously, in order to cool down the compressor coil so that you can get cold air in. But that's not happening anymore, and according to the ECU, it is calling for AC. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it's something that I will look at later. So yes, there's a long list of things that I need to do. And it's just time and money. That's all it is, time and money. But eventually I'll get it all apart again. You know what I really like to do, which is not really possible. I'd love to put a 6-speed in this. A lot of guys are doing the 4T80 conversion, which is fine, but I spent roughly about $3,000 getting the transmission rebuilt, the transaxle rebuilt, you know, with a stage 2 kit. So I have no reason to go and replace the transmission. I'm not going to be throwing a turbo on this or doing any of that wild stuff. That's not the point. But at any rate, so all right, well, it's getting hot out here. Just wanted to give you guys an update. I haven't updated in a long time. It's been just really tough. Gas prices suck, and there's too much that needs to be done to this car. I'd love to get it back on the road. I enjoy driving it, but for right now, we have other priorities, unfortunately. And yes, it's just going to sit here. And, you know, we talked about selling it. I thought, you know, maybe I'll sell it, but then I don't want to get in that situation where a few years down the road, I honestly regret selling it because I enjoy this car. And I probably couldn't get, even with all the upgrades that I've done, it probably needs about $2,000 worth of work. So I probably couldn't get $4 or $5 grand out of it anyways, even if I did sell it, because of the work that it needs. Nobody's willing to pay, you know, $8,000 or $10,000 for something like this, despite all the money that I have in the drivetrain. You know, it just wouldn't work out that way because it needs other work like wheels and tires and suspension, and it's got an oil leak, you know, things like that. Nobody wants to touch that stuff. So at any rate, I'm on the LS4 of Michigan forums, and I see people trying to dump their cars all the time. I don't know what's going on, but the value of these cars has plummeted. Even though they are more rare by the day, that's just natural with time. They're getting harder and harder to find, but the price seems to still be falling. Nobody seems to care about these anymore, and I think a lot of it is the fact that they've aged so much, and usually around the 100,000 to 150,000 mark, they start having some serious problems with the transmission, the lifters. There's a lot of problems that go into it, and not very many people wants to invest in having to rebuild all that stuff. So at any rate, I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. I got some work to do. So there she sits, unfortunately, and probably it's not gonna be till next year before I can actually drive it again. So anyway, we'll catch you guys later. Take care.